Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 372 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron, and I am so happy that you're here with me today. And today we are talking to the awesome Hanna Halperin. And this was an awesome conversation. We talk about allowing things to be messy, which I think that is one of the biggest things that we have got to get better at doing ourselves as writers, allowing stuff to get out of place, messy. We talk about moving characters from one place to another, and it's just a great interview. So please do stick around for that. What has been going on around here? Well, there was no episode last week because I was sick as hail. I was so sick, y'all. And it was. I'm just gonna lay a sob story on you because it was my birthday. I had felt really tired the day before, like just to the point where at dinner, I had told Lala, I'm like, I think I haven't been taking my vitamins because I am exhausted. And then at 4 a.m, I woke up with a sore throat, and I was like, no, because things holiday wise in the United States meant that I had to move all my classes, which I normally would have taught on my birthday because that's the day it falls on. But because of the holiday, I had moved all my classes. I had a whole day off, and I had brunch plans with writing friends. There was this auction house. I don't need anything, but there's this auction house that is only open on Wednesdays randomly. And I wanted to go to that and just look at things and poke things. There was like an accordion and typewriter keys, and there was another little consignment shop that I do really want a recliner. I want a recliner. So I don't need anything, but I do want a recliner. So I've been looking for a recliner. I was just going to have a day off and do things. And by 8 a.m, I had canceled with the writers and I was in bed. And by noon, I had a temperature of 104. And 104 is no joke, y'all. Couldn't get it down. I am an American, so I didn't even think about going to the doctor. Everybody in New Zealand later, when they heard about it, like, why didn't you go to the doctor or the emergency room? Like, we don't do that. We don't do. Besides, it would have been hell. But I do remember asking Lala if I was going to die. So that's an overreaction. But it was awful. Couldn't get the fever down. And then I'm going to tell you another really lovely, beautiful, sad story. In the middle of that afternoon, an incredible bouquet of flowers arrived, and Lala kind of held it through the bedroom door at me, and I was so sick. I looked up and I just thought, no, that I can't. It was making me nauseous even to move. So put it in the dining room. And then she read the card to me, and I couldn't remember 1 second later who she said had sent it to me. I knew that she had said the word grads. And there's a little bit of a secret that some people know and some people don't. But if you go through my 90-day courses, there is an option to get into the 90-day grads class. And I don't talk about it much, but the grads are incredibly special and amazing. And I love the grads. And the card had said which round of the grads had sent it to me. And I kind of assumed it was this current group of grads, but I didn't know who to thank. And honestly, I couldn't even look at my phone. So I didn't thank anybody that day. And I didn't thank anybody the next day. And I think I sent a little like, thanks for the flowers to my current grads. But what I had not known was there not only were the flowers, when I finally was able to wobble around and look at them, they were the most incredible flowers. There was also a gift bag with chocolate and the most intensely awesome candle I have ever received. It's tobacco. What is it? Tobacco vanilla. It's one of those really long lasting candles like Sasha Black and I were talking about. And also a spa package. And it came from the current grads, and it came from a bunch of the grads of grads, older grads, who had sent me this birthday present that I didn't even thank anybody for because I didn't know where it came from. And I didn't even know about the spa thing because that had gone to spam. So 4 or 5 days later, I texted Mona McDermott, who I knew would know. I said, who sent me the flowers? And just a little while later, the person who was in charge of organizing everything sent me the email again and said, did you get this? Do you know about the spa? Did you ever see the gift bag? I was like, no. I am just a dick. So, but I felt so loved. And also so confused, very, very confused, because I was also so feverish. I thought they were sending me flowers because I was so sick. because then I couldn't even remember it was my birthday. So I'm just glad I got through that sick part of it. I'm also very glad and grateful for this job that allowed me, and a lot of training that I have done that allowed me to send a message that day. The only thing I did was I walked to my desk and I sent messages to 90 days to done, 90-day revision, and the 90-day grads saying classes canceled tomorrow. And normal Rachel would have just freaked out because I can't stand to cancel a class for any reason, migraine, sickness, anything. I would have been scrambling to try to reschedule hot seats and to make sure that nobody was mad at me and to make sure that everybody feels supported. And I just took care of myself. I sent that message and I went to bed and I stayed there for 4 days. And it was awesome. And I'm so grateful for being able to do that. I'm also so grateful for the grads and the present that you all sent to me. So if you're listening to this and you were part of that, thank you. The spa part, the dream of my life is always to go get a massage. And the Kiwi in me that doesn't like to spend extra money that isn't necessary never lets me do that. Almost ever. I have not had a massage in years. Oh my God. Not since we moved to New Zealand, and definitely not since the pandemic. So it was 2019, the last almost 4 years that since I've had a massage, and I love massages so much. So I'm gonna get a massage or 2 or maybe 3 because it was a large gift, and I am so grateful. So thank you. This is my another additional thank you. And I'm very sorry that I didn't thank anybody on those first few days. So I am glad to be back at the desk. I'm still sick. I'm still very tired, and I'm doing the bare minimum, just what needs to get done. And what needs to get done this week, the bare minimum, is this podcast. I had told people who are on the $5 Patreon level that I would do the bonus mini episode, coaching episode. Last week, I have not done that, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to do that. Probably tomorrow morning, I'm hoping, but I'm also not committing to that because I'm doing the bare minimum as I am healing and getting better. Look at me trying to take care of myself. I'm not very good at it, but I am trying. So, but I am also very, very grateful and glad to be back at the desk. The dog lost her damn mind while I was sick. She lost any training or manner she's ever had. She was really upset. She started demand barking constantly at Lala. She couldn't be in the bedroom with me because she's just too chompy and bitey. She's still a puppy and just super stressed out. So for the last couple of days that I've been upright, it's been a lot easier, but wow, it was a rough time around here. I don't think it was COVID. I tested negative the whole time. And I'm happy to be back at the desk. I put on lipstick and mascara today and I brushed my hair. Amazing. What else is going on? Oh, we started Rachel Says Plan, which has been so fun. Rachel Says Plan is this new thing I told you all about a couple of weeks ago, where it's a Patreon level where you come over and you're in a Slack group and we plan our writing, we plan it together, and then we talk about it. We had our first meeting this last week. It was an hour live Zoom call with Q&A and only a couple questions. So then we just chatted, and it was so fun and so beautiful. And I'm really excited to work with people on the planning side of writing, because that is where we all let ourselves down over and over and over again. And that is part of being a writer. So Rachel Says Plan has been great. If you want to check that out, that's over at patreon.com/Rachel. And also, while I'm pushing things, this is the time you will want to make sure you're on the pre-notification list if you are interested in 90 Days to Done or 90-Day Revision. Y'all know that those classes sell out really quickly. If you go to, probably easiest is just go to rachelherron.com and then go to the right tab and go to those classes. And if you click on the classes, on there will be a link that says, like, let me know first. That'll take you to a Google Doc. You can put down your name and email. People who are on that list get 24-hour pre-alert status. So if you're interested in that, now would be the time to be on that, because I will be opening that up in a couple of weeks for the next session, which will start in September. It'll be September, October, November. So 90 days of writing your book or revising your book. There is a huge monarch butterfly flying around the sunshiny yard. It is the middle of dead winter. Today is Matariki. I don't know why I said that weird. Matariki, which is the New Year, the Maori New Year. And I can't believe there's a monarch butterfly flying around in the 47-degree weather Fahrenheit. That was really beautiful. I am thinking about the new year. I love the new year. This feels more new year to me than having the actual calendar new year in the middle of summer in New Zealand. This is the time for reflection. This is the time for figuring out what's going to happen next. I've been thinking about and touching my tarot cards and going to do a little reading with a friend tomorrow and replanning some things that I want to get done for the second half of the year. Here in New Zealand, our days are going to start getting longer, hopefully a little bit warmer. It has been cold and it's been cold and lovely. Honestly, the sun has just been brilliant. In Wellington, we tend to suffer very miserable springs, is what we have learned. But winter is cold and clear and bright, and I absolutely love it. I'm looking into the garden, obviously, right now, into the greenery, and that monarch just made my day as it fluttered by as I was talking to you. So thanks for letting me share it. All right, let's jump into the interview, shall we? Hanna Halperin is the author of Something Wild, which won the Edward Lewis Wallant Award, which was a finalist for the National Jewish Book Award for debut fiction, and was longlisted for the VCU Cabell First Novelist Award. Her stories have been published in the Kenyon Review, New Ohio Review, and Joyland. She has taught fiction workshops at GrubStreet in Boston and has worked as a domestic violence counselor. I Could Live Here Forever is her most recent novel, and it is a book that I gobbled, could not put down. So please enjoy this interview. Please do your own writing so that someday I can have you on the show and we could talk about your book. So do that for me, would you? Write just a little bit. Okay, y'all. We will talk soon. Here we go. Well, I am so glad to welcome you to the show. Will you please share your name and pronouns with us?
Sure. I'm Hanna Halperin, and my pronouns are she and her.
Thank you. Hanna, I loved your book. I Could Live Here Forever. I don't get a chance to read all the books of people who come on the show, but for this one, I grabbed it and it was so good. Thank you for writing it.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me.
Oh, as an MFA creative writing baby who then did nothing for many years after that. And also as a recovering alcoholic addict, it was such a cool read. I was just in it. I felt like I was living inside it. And I've got some questions here that I think you were given. So on this podcast, we talk about process. And I want to know about your general writing process in a moment. But first of all, your publicist in the email to me said that writing this particular book was a different kind of process for you. Can you talk about the first drafting of this book and what that was like?
Yes. The first draft of this book kind of came out a lot faster than my first book did, and sort of things usually do. I mean, once I get started on a project, I tend to write pretty fast, but I don't know if it was because we were working remotely, so I had more flexibility in my schedule in terms of creating my own schedule. And I think when I have long spurts of time, and when I have that time to kind of work at something, I kind of delve into it. And with this book, there was a lot of energy behind it. And once I started writing, I kind of just kept writing and didn't stop until I had finished a draft and kind of finished that first draft in about either 6 weeks or 2 months. But the way and I guess the writing process was pretty similar to how my writing process usually is, but it was just happening in an extreme way, or it was happening a lot all at once. And I guess in a way the pandemic, it was probably similar to a lot of people, where everything felt really extreme, or and I was living alone and was very isolated, so I kind of threw myself into the world of this book. And the book is about addiction and obsession. And I was like by myself. And so I kind of like lost myself in that in kind of like my own obsessive way. And it was a way to, yeah, to feel like less crazy and less alone, I guess. But I guess what the writing process looked like on a day-to-day basis, and I was still working, but I did have just like a lot more time. Was like I would wake up each morning and start the day off by reading what I had read the day before, and kind of like edit a bit as I went. But it was also a way to just kind of like enter back into the world of the book. And then I would write for a few hours. And then usually I would take a walk, like a pretty long walk. And that's always been like a big part of my writing process, is like going on these walks. And I don't know if you're the same way, but like while I would walk, I'd think a lot about what I had written and what I was going to write next. And like, I don't know if other people are this way, but like, I find that like, I end up like memorizing a lot of what I'm writing just from having reading it so many times over. And so like on the walks, I'd be kind of like thinking about the sentences that I'd written and editing them as I went, like figuring out what I was going to cut when I got home. And
Wow.
yeah, like pretty like granular details, or like,
Yeah.
which a more precise way to say something, or and then like bigger picture stuff too, of like what was going to happen later on in the book, or what was going to happen with a particular character. And I wouldn't I'm not someone who like really like writes stuff out in my head, but like it just sort of like scenes would kind of start to formulate in like a fuzzy way. And then by the time I got home, I'd be pretty energized to start writing again. And so my days would be pretty filled up with the book in that way. And that would sort of bring me to the end of the day. And so for a few months, I was sort of like doing this all the time. And then, revision, that's when I kind of got other people involved, or like, was able to get readers and stuff. But for the first 2 months, it was just me and that first draft. And it was like, it was really exciting in a way that like other writing projects, they always are, but this one felt different because there was just like so much energy and momentum behind it.
And that explains why the obsession feels so real and visceral, I think, is because you were also pouring that particular kind of energy into it at that moment. Are
Yeah.
you a planner at all, or were you just chasing this book where it wanted to go? Did you know where you wanted it to end? How did that work?
I don't ever like really plan out. Like I don't like write an outline or plan it out. Usually like I'll have like some sense of like I'm writing towards a scene, or writing towards like a turn in the book or something like that. I think at some point in the writing process I knew how the book would end, but I don't have the sentences, but I have like either I know how the feeling is. I know I
Mm,
want the feeling to be a certain way, or maybe I knew like where the setting was going to be, but I don't yet know what it's going to look like. And I had like a real urgency of wanting to get to the end. And once I got there, kind of the sentences just sort of came to me, and that was it was a good feeling. I kind of knew, oh, this is the end when I got
oh,
there.
that's so cool. And that word urgency, I think, is particularly useful around this book. It's an urgent book, and yeah, it kind of devoured the time that I was reading it. What is the biggest challenge for you when it comes to writing?
Um, for me, it's usually like this voice in my head that will typically come like either before I start writing, or like when I write like the first few sentences of something new, that is typically saying like either this isn't important or
Mhm.
like why would anybody want to read this? um and and that will usually like stop me from writing. Like I'll usually like just stop writing, or I'll attempt to like write something like more like quote important, and that
Mm.
will turn into something very false sounding or horrible,
Yeah.
and then I'll stop writing that after a few sentences too. And like after, you know, the voice is eventually I'll get past it, and it's usually like just a matter of like actually getting into a story, or like writing a few scenes or a few pages, and getting involved into it. But like at the beginning, it's kind of always there.
Does the voice, what helps most to kind of get rid of that voice? Because I know that voice and it comes back to me all through a
Mm.
project as well. Like
Oh,
how do you handle that?
yeah. Um, I think the thing that helps me the most is like just reading, like going back to the writers that I love the most, and like reading the books that I love,
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that these books exist. And
Yeah.
um, these books are about um relationships or desire, or just people being with each other, whatever it is they're doing. And I don't have to be so self-conscious about the things that I'm compelled to
Oh,
write
I
about.
love that. I don't have to be so self-conscious. Yes, exactly. What is your biggest joy when it comes to writing?
um I think just like when I'm in it, like sort of what I was describing, like the writing process, like when it's going really well, and um I'm like, I think it starts to really affect like how like my days are, and when I'm
Mm.
like waking up, and the first thing I'm thinking about is what I'm writing, and kind of everything that I'm observing and thinking about, and doing is like somehow like either feeding into what I'm writing, or um I don't know, life just seems like a lot more like interesting and
Oh
manageable,
yeah.
and just like it's a very exciting way to live when like the writing is going well. um
Yeah.
and revision can be like that too, I think, like getting feedback from people, and starting to like see like the story or the work in like a new light. And um I don't know, I think like being the beginning is hard, and then like the publishing part is tricky for me too, but like the middle is just like that's really fun. So I really
Yeah.
like that.
Your face lights up when you talk about it.
Oh.
Um, will you talk to me about that difficulty of publishing?
Oh, it's just well, like figuring out how to talk about it, like promoting, promoting your work, like social media is like pretty hard for me.
Mm.
And I don't know, it's like it can be tricky, like, you know, keeping track of the things that matter. Like, you know, it's no longer about like writing. It's about,
Yeah.
um, you know, it seems like it's like a lot more about like ego, and there's all this stuff out there that can be really distracting, like lists and reviews, and like how well your book is doing, and that can feel like very removed from actually like why like you are driven to write in the first place.
Yeah.
um,
I always feel like it's when a book goes out there, my ego at once gets huge and it is also nothing. Like I
yes.
have I have no part of ego. Like I'm just worthless, but also I'm the most important thing in the universe for those. And then
Yeah.
putting those two things together and neither of them are true is very difficult for me.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to describe it. Like I don't, I don't feel like the best version of myself right now. And I don't think I'm like especially pleasant to be around at this moment. So
Oh, I
I,
identify
I'm
with
like,
that so much.
yeah, I'm like looking forward to when like, um, again, like there's such a race to like, and like I feel it like, like I was like writing just like I wanted the book to like succeed and be out there and stuff. Um and now I'm very much like, you know, almost like nostalgic for the time that I was writing it, because that's when it
Yeah.
felt like the most like alive to me.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Can you share a craft tip of any sort with us?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about this and I was like, I don't know if this is a craft tip, but like it's something that came up sometimes, like when I was teaching workshops, like students would ask about um like like how to get like characters from like this room to that room, or point A to point B, or
Hmm.
this day to that day, and sort of like how to deal with those filler scenes, or almost a question of like how to write like the boring parts.
Yeah.
And and I thought it was like a good question, and like in a way it's kind of like a technical question that also speaks to something bigger, and sort of like giving yourself permission to um like skip over the boring parts, and allowing the reader to jump, um jump with you from place to place, or day to day, or year to year, and not feeling like you have to hold their hand, through those transitions, but also, you know um kind of like to another point, like as you're writing, if you're feeling bored, writing something, kind of allowing yourself to also just skip over that, and move to a part where you're feeling more excited about something, or more compelled to write it.
Yes.
And um you know and not to say like every part has to feel like incredibly fun to be writing, but I think like especially in that first draft, like it should, hopefully it feels, hopefully some of it feels fun, because I think if you're having fun, like your reader's probably gonna enjoy reading it too.
Yeah. I don't know if you agree with this, but it is something that I've often thought is that many writers are perfectionists and we want our first drafts to someday be like, oh, this is the one I just accidentally got right. And for so many years, I had this feeling where, yeah, it might feel boring, but I got to write it because I can't go to the next step. I've got to do it right, the right way, in order, and allowing myself to just stop writing. I will literally stop writing in the middle of a sentence and just put boring, skip to blank, fix later, and I'll go to the next part. And that felt like
Totally.
cheating for so long as a type A plus student. Like that felt like cheating, but it's not cheating. It's the best.
Yes. I think like allowing yourself to do that, and like allowing it to be messy, and
Yeah.
um I think that's a perfect example of
Yeah.
just um yeah,
Allowing it to be
letting it be messy.
messy. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, if I could ever do that with anything in my life, it's the best thing ever.
I know.
Okay, can you tell us what the kindest thing that anyone has ever done for you in your writing career is?
That's another hard question, because I feel like there's been so many things, and those have kind of been the things that have like propelled me forward. But I was thinking kind of in terms of this book, especially. I kind of described like the writing process was like really, it was really intense, and also very like solitary, and when I finished writing it, I hadn't like shared any of it with anyone, and when I finished it, I hadn't even like read the whole thing through, but I reached out to one of my friends who's also a writer, and I kind of like felt like I I don't know like if you feel like this, but there like come certain points when writing where you're like, this is a good moment to get feedback. And it was like, it was that moment. And I reached out to this friend and I asked him if he would read the draft, which is like a pretty big ask, especially like at that point, because it was like an incredibly rough draft. And it was like
most
a
people would
big,
not be able to handle that. You know, it has to be a certain kind of person who holds a level of trust with you that would be able to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was also just like, it's like a big document, and like it's time. And he said he would do it, and I think he read it like either that day or the next day.
That's the
and
best.
and like, you know, I don't remember what his comments were, but they were such that like I felt so excited to keep writing. And it's not like they were all like, you know, oh, this is perfect, or, you know, they were so engaged. And it was also, it was like, just like the generosity in which he like responded. And like, and there's been plenty of times like I've had friends send me stuff and it's taken me like way longer to get back, and that's just like the nature of like, you know, what's going on. And but it was, you know, he just, I don't know, there was like tremendous yeah, I guess like kindness and generosity. And like I don't think he ever like knew how much that meant to me, or like how like the feeling that I had when I got that response, because it, like I had been like living alone with that draft, like in like a pretty intense way for a few months. And then to get his response, I was sort of like given this new burst of energy, and kind of moved forward with it. So I think like, yeah.
Oh, go on.
No, I think like having just, you know, just like one vote of confidence like that, at a specific moment can do a lot.
Maybe you will send him this podcast when it comes out, and he will know.
Yeah.
What is the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
I think probably just like in moments of rejection, um, allowing myself to like wallow, but then like, still like keep trying, and like um not give up. So
Feel your feelings, and then just get up and take the next step.
yeah.
I like to give myself 24 solid hours for a good wallow. If it's a big rejection, if it's a big hurt, I could just stay in bed for 24 hours, but then I
Right.
always need to get up and do a little bit more.
Yeah.
What is the best book that you read recently, and why did you love it?
I recently read a book called Strangers to Ourselves by Rachael Aviv. I don't know if you've read this one. It's a nonfiction book, and it's about like mental illness and kind of like diagnoses, and how like these like words and stories we tell ourselves, and like that like doctors tell us about ourselves kind of really shape our perceptions of ourselves, and shape our lives. And it's nonfiction, but it reads in a pretty like novelistic way, in a way that I could not put it down. And it follows maybe like 5 or 6 different people, and one of the people is the woman who wrote the book. And it just made me think in like really kind of like nuanced and profound ways about how how we kind of label and think about ourselves. And it wasn't like anti-psychiatry, but it it did kind of like look at psychiatry in like a way that I hadn't thought about
I
before.
love that. That sounds fabulous. And I'm going to go probably pick it up as soon as we hang up. So
It's
thank you
so
for that.
good. Yeah.
And will you please tell us a little bit about your book, I Could Live Here Forever?
Yeah. So it's I Could Live Here Forever is about a young woman named Leah who moves to Madison, Wisconsin to get her MFA in fiction writing. And there she falls in love with Charlie, who is a recovering addict. And they fall into just a very intense relationship. And yeah, it follows their relationship.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I could not put it down. And I was just living inside it. So, and it's beautifully written. Where can we find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at hanna.halperin or on my website, hannahalperin.com. And
Thank you so much for
yeah,
being here
thank you so
today.
much for having me. I love your podcast, and it was so nice to chat with you.
Thank you, Hannah.